I participated in no less than 5 census takings as an adult. This last one in 2020 was the first one. They did not ask whether I was a citizen or not. Also, it's the first one where they did not inquire as to the status of my parents, what their status was. See, heretofore what went on is they said these are the citizens, this is the population of the United States, and we have another category of people who are not citizens. This time for 2020 they combined them. What's the purpose? Well, so California, Illinois, New York, New Jersey, etc. will not lose congressional representation and will perhaps gain representatives. In other words, if you build up the population of California, they maintain the current number of congressmen, or they might gain one or two, but the people that are being counted toward this gain or retention cannot vote. So there are what I call local yokels, New York and a few other places, California, places like San Francisco, where they have an Asian who is not a citizen who's sitting on, of all things, the election commission to determine for San Francisco how the votes are counted and such like. There are locals that are trying to generate this thing. They also are trying to bring in people who are susceptible to a new agenda, which is to impose the rainbow cult on the country. It is a new religion, and in order to understand its religious nature, contemplate Buddhism. Buddhism is an ancient and honorable religion, but it does not have a deity, no God. Same thing with LGBTQIA. Not homosexuality, but this cult that's represented by the rainbow. You cannot teach Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Buddhism, Hinduism in an American public school, but you can teach rainbow. Kids get taken to Sunday school, the church by their mothers, and they sit through bored to tears for an hour or 2 hours a few Sundays out of the month, and by the time they are 6, 7, 8, 9, they're devout believers in whatever the religion happens to be, whether they went to church, synagogue, or mosque, or temple. But what you have is the rainbow being imposed 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, preschool all the way through 12th grade. So they are indoctrinating people in this rainbow thing. When you get people to thinking that they can't do anything because something has held them down, and they blame this something without being able to focus on what's necessary to counter it, then you have achieved your goal. You have made them think of themselves as impotent, so they are unable to function, and they acquiesce in what's going on, and they just bitch about it. Man, white supremacy holding us down, man. Like, you know, they gonna do everybody like they did Black Wall Street, you know, blah, 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 blah. Well, okay, what are you gonna do about it? Well, see, 55 years ago in the late 1960s, people were talking about black power, you know, power to the people. Get out my way, I'll do it myself. Now everybody's talking about when you're going to cut the check. Reparations would not be a bad thing, but it's kind of like saying, hey, if I just win the big lottery, everything's going to be all right. Yeah, of course it would be, but what are your chances of winning it? And why do you insist on voting for a party that is diametrically opposed to granting you what you want because they've got another agenda that they want you to fit into and support that has nothing to do with you? You're getting pimped. That's like a wholesaling behind, you know, like what she got out the deal. See, manhood is about duty, honor, obligation, accountability. You have a cause and a purpose. You can articulate that. Ask one of the young brothers what he's all about, and he'll give you something that's nihilistic, hopelessness, not a cause, not a purpose. You see, if you've got something that's on your ass, that's adversity. And when you conquer adversity, yeah, I did it. And you brag about it. So what is it that we brag about now that we have? What did we conquer? You know, You're in Africa, 13 years old. You got to prove your worth training up to manhood. From that point, go kill your lion with your wooden spear without even an iron head on it. And the elders go to see if you got a real lion. What do we do now? Punk out. Tear up where we live. We look at a spectacle where the women are totally, well, the females are totally out of control. You see all of the videos. Somebody's camera, trying to video some clown females playing girl-rilla as they're battling it out, flailing all over the place, knocking each other around. That is a disgrace. Those girls ought to be practicing being women and ladies to bestow order in people's heads. They have sons, and those sons are looking at disorder, chaos. What do you expect them to be when they grow up? There are no father figures around to model themselves on. There is no media, no voice of the village trying to push masculinity, which is about duty, honor, obligation, accountability, public order. You see, we don't have these things. We've got chaos. 1991 and 2, CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, sent a special hit team to Memphis because of the extremely high incidence of HIV that had developed in the penal system in Memphis. Memphis has, or Shelby County, where Memphis is located, has the dubious distinction of having more inmates than any other county in the entirety of the United States. It's got a federal maximum security facility, a state medium and minor facility, and county facilities and juvenile facilities. Well, I wound up being the administrative judge for the criminal court, so I was in charge of what was going on. And what came out, thanks to a sister who went astray, Catherine Bowers, now deceased, she got a legislative act passed that required that somebody 18 to 25 who was locked up, sentenced, would have to be tested for STDs upon registration in the institution and upon release. So what CDC found out was that you were having 4 to 6% going in HIV positive, and after 3 months, 90 days, you were getting somewhere around 64, 66% HIV positive.
Hold on, Fire. You said it went from 4% to 60-something percent?
Because what was going on is if somebody had been incarcerated for 9 months, there was a 92% probability that they had engaged in either voluntary or involuntary homosexual contact with some other inmate. The bad problem is that what was going on in, say, Memphis is in certain areas of Memphis, you had a situation where 9 out of every 11 male blacks between 18 and 29 were not just on probation or parole, but were actually incarcerated. So what wound up happening is you had 8 out of every 13 females in the same group had the problem. But what was going on is the 2 out of 11 that had already done time were out there dealing with the remaining 4 women out of that group who were not on probation or parole. Typically, women didn't get the time. They got put on probation or parole more so than the guys. So you had a massive HIV problem. And I would have every last Thursday in the month reserved for petitions to suspend remainder of sentence, where people were locked up in the county system where I still had jurisdiction. So I can remember one instance where I had like 23, 24 people applying for petitions to suspend remainder of sentence on this one particular Thursday. And 11 of them were interesting because I'm reading their reports and they each had homosexual contact with each other, and all of them were HIV positive. So their defense lawyers wanted to approach the bench and asked me as the court not to publish this. I said I'd take it under advisement. Now I'm listening to all of these women come in and they wanted their man back so they could take up habitation with him again and, set up the family. So instead of dealing with them one at a time, I dealt with all of them and reserved ruling, and I called all of these women back up. I was pretty good with names then, so I said, Miss Thompson, Miss Jackson, Ms. Willis, Miss So-and-so, would you please come back to the bar there? Said, now each of you has indicated that you wish to take back up with the individuals you have testified in support of. Is that correct, ma'am? So, okay. The court has been asked not to reveal this, but the court must, in the interest of public safety, disclose to you the fact that each of these individuals that you have testified in support of is HIV positive. 4 of them have active cases of AIDS. And that means, and one of them says, oh, hell no, ma'am, please. What that means is if you have sex with them, you are dead. There is no known cure. This is like 93, 94. And the court feels that it must apprise you of the danger. See, but that was a regular thing. So you're looking at all of these people that are going for bad, and they've been booty busting each other. And see, not only that, there was another thing too, which dealt with rape. What was happening was very interesting. I'm not talking about these cases where it was a dispute over somebody said they were going to pay somebody's rent, so somebody got mad when they didn't and accused them of rape. I'm talking about when you had an actual rapist, and this has been going on longer than when I was on the bench because I was a criminal defense lawyer. So I would have somebody that, got a bogus case, somebody's mad at him and then they recant the rape accusation. And then I've got the ones that I know actually did something, all right? Invariably, what happened to them that I knew from being their defense lawyers and what I had as a continuing situation that I had to deal with as a judge was that somebody was walking along the streets in the projects and 4, 5, 6 guys jumped him. They stuck a pistol to his head and they just knocked him out and drug him into an abandoned apartment in the projects. And they hadn't lost the taste for what was going on in the jail. And they raped him.
Hold on. You talking about dudes raping dudes on the street?
Yeah. So they'd rape him. And as a matter of vengeance, to scapegoat somebody else, he would rape a woman later. Now, the other thing I knew from being a defense lawyer for a long time was this. You'd get these idiots that weren't raised right. So mama would come in at 15, when he was 15, and retain you to represent him in juvenile proceedings. So it'd be money coming in, pay your secretary, pay your rent, and all of your expenses and stuff like that. So by the time this guy got 18, 19, mama wasn't paying so much anymore. He'd have 4 women come in. So you're getting money from 4 women, different women, to represent him, okay? He'd do his first serious time where he'd actually do 9, 10, 11, 12, 14 months and get out. The next time you saw him, it wouldn't be the 4 women, it would be 1 or 2 women and 3 dudes that were paying for him. And it was funny because over and over again, what would happen is the women would come in a month or 2, Lawyer Brown, I want my money back. Well, you can't get it back. I've signed on the jacket. What's the problem? That no good, Jamal. Look, let me tell you something. I started noticing all my Kotex were gone. And then I figured out, what is his butt bleeding like that for? And then I found out he was dealing with these 4 sissies down at the other end of the hallway in the same building I'm in, and then coming down trying to deal with me. If you have manly character where you don't want that siren going because you want order in your community so that does not have to occur, where the people that have the ability to do these things protect and serve their communities, not as police, because the police only clean up the stuff that is not fundamentally done. The police comes from the same term that you'd run into if you were ever in the military. All right, gentlemen, we're going to police this area. I don't want to see anything out here. Cigarette butts, trash. I don't want to even see a scrap of hair out of place. The fundamental responsibility for public peace, dignity, and order resides with the community, not the police. The police weren't even invented when the Constitution was ratified in 1789. The police got invented by Scotland Yard. Sir Robert Peel, an aristocrat who ran Scotland Yard, and he set up the bobbies. Robert Bobby, that's what they call them now, bobbies. Constable on patrol, cop. And that came into the United States in the late 1830s and early 1840s in Philadelphia, New York, and some of the eastern cities. This is one of them right here. Before that, that's why you had the Second Amendment. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the common defense. In other words, militia was every able-bodied male from 15 to 60 was responsible for the law and order in his community, whether it was from opposition by Native Americans who didn't like the encroachment on their territory to bandits and other lawless elements. You were supposed to be proficient in weaponry so that you could participate in an organized defense. That came from the English common law, where the commoner, the yeoman, had to practice with bow and arrow a specified number of times a week, so if the king needed you, you could participate in his royal armies. So if you had a duty, it became a right. If you had a duty to be proficient with archery, you had a right to have the archery tackle that you needed. If you had a duty to participate in a militia, you had a right to possess the weaponry that was necessary. Now, if you have no character, you are a dangerous individual. You can kill all you want if you study and you are a fiend, but the process of teaching is self-regulating because you also teach character in the dojo, not just the art of doing people in. You have a tradition that developed before these viable DNA tests where I don't care whether he looks like you now, you feed him long enough, he'll look just like you. And it's a way of keeping certain communities in check. Poor white communities, poor black communities, brown ones, red ones, whatever it may be. It's a means of social control, political control. So child support is used for that purpose. Also, what usually winds up happening is when these corrupt systems get to child support, they don't immediately tender it to the woman. They keep it for months to earn interest on it. The interest just disappears for other purposes. And then the woman gets the child support. A lot of times the child support is designed to keep a family down. In other words, the guy can afford to pay it, they make the woman suffer. If the guy can't afford to pay it, then they are going to break him so he does not get able to pay it. Used to be you could grow out of it. In other words, might be ruinous to pay child support, whatever, when you're 29, 32, 34 years old. But as you get older, your income increases, so it might not be any big thing by the time you get in your mid-40s. But now they have methods for automatically ramping it up so somebody stays behind the 8 ball.
That's the part I don't understand. Like, if you're taking so much of this man's income that he can't survive,
That's the purpose.
but how is that beneficial to you being a father?
It's not. If you're not a good father, you generate juvenile delinquents or juvenile delinquency. These privatized juvenile systems then make money on incarcerating the juveniles. You have to start looking at what they're getting.
No, I understand that part, right?
But that's what they want to do. See, they want to maintain a condition of helplessness within certain impacted communities. They don't want them to be viable in terms of actually exercising power.
And another question I have too, man, is just like, why are women allowed to just like have free reign? Because it's almost like mental abuse in a sense, how they deal with the child compared to a husband. So like, why aren't there any laws that clearly states that you using the child, or a next thing is denying men access to the child?
Well, see, that's the other thing too. Every state has the same rule on that, and there's an interstate compact on uniform child support. A woman can't cut off visitation for non-payment of child support. They think they can, but the law in just about every state forbids that, because the interest of the child is supposed to be paramount and the input from the father is important. A lot of places turn a blind eye to that, and a lot of women don't know that. And they do it, and the guy doesn't want to be bothered with going to court anyway, because it's not healthy to be down there.
Can America survive without the prison industrial complex?
No. But it's got to be revised in what it does. And the way to stop it is to do something that every other industrialized nation except ours is doing. And that is come up with programs so that the worker who is made obsolete by industrial technology and computerization becomes or remains viable in the labor market. See, too many people have been loyally serving a company, say driving a forklift for 19 years. They've got savings, a home, etc. They have aspirations, and then they get a pink slip that says, "Buy, sucker, we're downloading for corporate profitability," because some SOB wants to be a billionaire before he hits 55, so you can go forget all your bills and everything you rely upon. It can all go to hell. Now, you see, we don't need that. And some people don't get the right idea about this. Some think that they want to put people in prison so under the 13th Amendment they can get slave labor. They don't want the labor other than to keep somebody from being idle, because idle minds mischief make. Okay, so you want something for them to do to keep them out of trouble. The bottom line is this criminal justice system was not seeking rehabilitation, because if you rehab them, they just reglut the labor market that you won't fix. Leave it to private enterprise. Well, private enterprise is not into charity, it's into making money. Now, what I did to stop the recidivism, and what I got some initial fame for, was first off getting the defendant to understand what he was into. Yeah, man, I pulled it off. No, man, thank you. What do you mean thank you? You mean because I reformed, Judge? No, I'm not thanking you for reforming. I'm thanking you for effing up in the first place. We need you to do that. Thank you for... Wait. You want us to do that? Yeah. Don't you get it, man? You getting chumped off because you're doing just exactly what you're supposed to do. This system doesn't work unless you do what you do. Wait a minute. You mean they want me to do these criminalities? Yeah, that's exactly it. Damn. So when you get somebody to thinking about it, and then you get him to thinking about what is your purpose in life? I ain't got no purpose. Well, you could have. And when you give him a cause, see, maybe this guy put on one of these programs in 1992. I ran into him when I'm in mine, 3 of them just last week. Judge, you remember us? No, I don't. Well, you gave us some time. Did I give you enough? Well, see, it was this thing about manhood, man. It's like, damn, like I got grandchildren now, man. And, like everybody's doing well. It's like you straightened me up, man. I ain't been back. And see, that was the other secret. I was imposing manhood. And you see, when you take a male and you teach him manhood, he's got a cause that can never leave him. No matter how bad it gets, he doesn't want to die behind it because it's making him angry and it's saying it's adversity. And whether you call adversity Simba or you call it what I have to deal with on a day-to-day basis is a man. It's my task, my obligation, and my privilege to take it on and whip it because I'm part of a team. I'm not alone. And you see, when you do that, you totally alter this guy's perspective and he no longer becomes a thug, something that preys on his community. He does something for it because he perceives himself as being part of something. He's a man of his people and of his community. And when he sees himself that way, he stops messing up like he's been doing.
I heard you once say that Bill Cosby was under surveillance by the FBI during the 70s.
Yeah, everybody was. J. Edgar Hoover was what he was, but something was wrong with him. And the FBI had everybody under surveillance. They had Martin Luther King under surveillance, Andrew Young, Stokely Carmichael, H. Rap Brown, Huey Newton, Eldridge Cleaver. They had Mayor Tom Bradley of Los Angeles under it. They just snooped on everybody. And I find it astonishing that the Black Caucus acts like the FBI has been our friend. The FBI was created to get a black man, Jack Johnson, the first black world heavyweight champion. He had a white wife, and she and her girlfriends used to hang around him, and they thought that was horrible, so the FBI was created to investigate that. They came up with the Mann Act, which most recently they got R. Kelly under. And it was just awful what they did. J. Edgar Hoover considered black militancy as a poison, a disgrace, and a hotbed for communist subversion and something that would overthrow the American way of life. And interestingly enough, if you look at pictures of him as a young man, you can see why. And if you look at what the Smithsonian Channel and the History Channel have been putting out over the last few years, he was a black man. Now, there is a couple that matches the name of his parents, but they had a child that died back in 1921, just one child. That's not J. Edgar Hoover. If you look at the other one, you will see 2 black people who are very, very fair-skinned, and they got run out of Louisiana for trying to pass for white by the Klan. Now, paradoxically, Hoover used to hate the Klan with an extreme passion because of that. But he didn't like his own people. And the Klan was a good thing for the FBI to be after. But black people became his fetish in terms of going after. So everybody that was active back in the 60s well remembers getting hauled into an FBI headquarters and interrogated about something you said or that you were presumed to have done. And a word of advice, if federal agents talk to you, never say you don't know anything about it. Just say, I refuse to make a statement. I have nothing to say to you. Because ordinarily they'll tell you what you have been brought in for, and you say, I don't know anything about it. Well, they just told you something about it, and when they indict you on 17 counts, 29 counts, if you've got a good lawyer, he can get you acquitted on all counts but the last one, which is making a knowingly false statement to a federal agency or agent, and they get the client on that, he's convicted. And by the way, I'm looking at some of the stuff that's going on right now, and some of the people that have been involved in some things are liable to be prosecuted for making knowingly false representations to federal agencies, perhaps grand juries and stuff like that. And I'm going to laugh when what is inevitable becomes reality.
Can you let people know? I think because of the whole situation that happened with Bill Cosby, people forget the amount of work that he did and the support he gave other black people. Can you share with the people Bill Cosby helped financially that you're aware of over the years?
Bill Cosby helped a lot of people. But see, most importantly to this mix, first time he ran into problems was when he got the financing together to acquire NBC. You did not want a person like Cosby to control NBC as a corporate entity. Then he got it again. Then they started bringing all this stuff out of the woodwork. And he got an assurance from the elected district attorney, the office of district attorney, that there would be no prosecution. Fifth Amendment says that you have a right to remain silent. You cannot be compelled to give evidence against yourself. But in a civil case, you can. So when the DA issued that written edict that there was no intention to prosecute, that they found the case was frivolous anyway, the civil judge ordered him to comply with the deposition request in a civil action that had been brought against him. Well, he admitted the acts, but not the intent. He said, she wanted this. This is what I gave her. This was like sex, drugs, and rock and roll all through the 60s and 70s. It was a thing. So the new district attorney said, screw that, we're not going to be bound by the agreement. Well, she had to be because it was the office. So that was Fifth Amendment. I said that from the front end. They've got no business going here because all they're trying to do is ruin this man. And when they locked him up, he tells me, and I talked to him, he said they offered me over and over the opportunity to get out of jail within a week if I just say, okay, they're right. He said, hell no, I'm not going to do that. It's a matter of principle. So inevitably, he got acquitted because of the Fifth Amendment violation. This group now does not care about compliance with the law, which is the scariest thing going. Not what they're claiming other people have done, but this violation. Now, what's happened in the name of being politically correct is to a legalist rather astonishing. For example, in most states, if somebody took a baseball bat to you and hit you in the face with the baseball bat and knocked out half your teeth, broke your jaw in 3 places, you'd have 1, at most 2 years to bring a civil action. Meanwhile, if you're a woman and somebody squeezes your ass, you got 30 years. It doesn't make any sense because in the name of being politically correct, you're doing something that is against the law. Now, you shouldn't abuse women, but the bottom line is the law deals with humans, and it says at some point you need to get on with your life. Either do something on the pot or get off.
And also, just with time and space, won't the story get distorted as your distance from the experience?
Yeah, that's tell a tale long enough and loud enough, anybody will believe it. And see, there were all kinds of things that went wrong with the Cosby case. In fact, some of those women that were on that, what was it, McCall's or something magazine that all claimed to have been molested by Cosby. See, I recognized some of them, and that was from parties at the Hollywood mansions where it was sex, drugs, and rock and roll, where the person would show up, take a coat off, see-through, no bra, 15 minutes later, her bottom off, and she's running around in thongs, and in a half hour, she's completely naked, and she's hitting the coke and the fine wine, and you go to the bathroom and you gotta wait, and then she comes out wiping her lips, holding somebody's hand, or you go to get your coat and she's screwing somebody on top of your coat. You go back to another party and there they are 3 or 4 days later doing the same thing. So it's kind of like you choose to jumpstart your career. You don't have that great of a talent thing anyway, and it doesn't work. Now you get old, over the hill. It isn't your fault. And then you get people like Gloria Aldrich. Meanwhile, I can recall a conversation with her at an Emmy party. She'd been drinking wine, and she was bragging about how she extorted these celebrities by threatening to come up with complaints against them unless they paid to settle something. So, I mean, it's a vicious thing. And to show you where it's going, back here, there's a move afoot to add a special type of felony rape by seduction. Now, what the hell does that mean? That means if a guy and a gal go out, and it's springtime, and they go to a nice restaurant, have a good dinner over candlelight, nice wine, and they go for a walk in the park, and they're holding hands in your place of mine, and they get over to wherever they go, kissing and hugging, clothes come off, and nature takes its course. Well, that's supposed to be rape by seduction. What they claim is supposed to happen is, honey, I'm horny. How about if we go to dinner and then we get it on afterwards? Is that all right? Well, hell, that'll get you nowhere, because that's some lame-ass style.
So if everything's not laid out prior to the event, someone can argue that you were raped by seduction.
Yeah, that's supposed to be rape by seduction, felony.
So is this going to pass?
No, but they're pushing it. But that just shows you where they're coming from. Like, excuse me.
But when did that change human interaction?
Well, that's the point. In other words, look, how do you think humans run this mating game? Look at all these people around here. Most of these people were fortunate enough for that seduction and, thing to have worked out. That's how you get people. That's the human courtship ritual thing. So you want to change all of that because nobody's interested in you? See, it doesn't work that way. And then you hate men because of what you think they've done to you? Well, okay. I think anybody that hates women is crazy. Anybody that hates men is crazy. But see, there is this thing that I saw 55 years ago that's come to the forefront, is men and women are different. They're equal in value, but they're not equal in what they do. And some people have a problem with that. Now, let's take one example I can think of right now. One of the most powerful women in history, Cleopatra, all right? What did she do to get insinuated with Julius Caesar, probably the most powerful man in the ancient Roman world? Allegedly, she had herself wrapped up naked in a carpet and taken over by a slave and unrolled in front of Caesar at his feet. So,
Seduction.
Yeah, seduction. She seduced him. See, it works both ways. A lot of women hate it, but you're driving down the street, somebody cuts you off. God, oh shit, damn, baby, cut me off again. Hell, damn, man, you see that? Damn. So nature is nature. And people talk about objectification of beauty. Yeah. If we didn't objectify beauty, we'd still all be looking like chimpanzees. But we don't.
Judge, I just want to jump back real quick. Can you list, if you remember, the amount of, I just want people to know the amount of people that Bill Cosby helped when they were in dire situations.
Oh, yeah. Well, what I was getting to is I talk about generic categories. Bill Cosby helped a lot of people. See, it was a role model. He became an exemplar of what you could be if you sat down at the kitchen table and paid attention to your homework. He was playing part of a family where one of them was a physician and one of them was a lawyer. Now, that's supposed to be a fantasy in some people's mind. Hey, that don't happen. Yeah, it does. And I know couples, lawyer, doctor, two doctors, two lawyers. And they came out to projects, old time projects, you know, came out of South Central, came out of all kinds of hoods around the country. They made it. And that's because instead of yielding to the temptation of doing nothing, they sat at that kitchen table and they busted their ass from kindergarten through 12th grade. You do that and the rest of your life is wide open to you. You can do whatever you want. And the problem is too much of this is predicated on that's not what we think we ought to do. And Bill Cosby was trying to say, this is what you ought to do. This is what you can be. This is the way it's supposed to work. You see how I'm talking to my children right here? I'm being reasonable with them, but I'm putting down the rules, and my wife is backing me up by she's saying, let the beatings begin. You know, if you get out of this on his joke albums, that's a reality. You see, he's trying to help all those people. He loaned money to people. He gave people advantage. He got wrapped up in something that a lot of the current last three generations don't get, which is in the 60s and 70s, there was this thing called sex, drugs, and rock and roll, the sexual revolution, where having sex with somebody was about as casual as having a slow dance at a house party with somebody you already knew. And that was the flavor. It happened all the time. So now it looks like it's odd. It looks like it's something, oh my God. But we've got some screwed up dynamics. Right now, for example, there are more boy virgins 25 and under than there are girl virgins. There are more boys who stay at home with a parent 30 years of age and under, 35 and under, than there are girls. Only 44% of the American workforce is male. Only 28% of each year's high school graduates for the last 20-some years are male. Only 32% of the college undergrads are male. Only 36% of the grad students are male. Something's happening.
There's a great book called Boy Crisis. I forgot the name, something Farrell. But he really breaks down how basically men have just given up.
No, they haven't given up.
Go ahead.
They've been taught.
They've been taught to.
Because you see, you had people like poetress Nikki Giovanni going around in the late 60s saying the worst thing you could do is have a father in a child's life. The best thing was to get pregnant. Don't tell the SOB he was the daddy. You can do better on your own. She had
really
problems.
Saying that?
We cussed her out at a BSU meeting at UCLA 1968 for saying that in front of 10,000 people.
Hold on. The lady that did the interview with
that one.
She said that?
She said that 2 occasions, 1967, 1968, at UCLA. I was witness to her in a room a little bigger than this. UCLA BSU, we met with her afterwards, and several of us took offense at what she was saying.
Did she ever explain the purpose, the reason?
Yeah, she hated men.
But she seems like I don't know her, right? But she seems like a
you got to know who you're following. But you see, this kind of thing was poisonous, and it was not good for anybody. But see, when you start getting this kind of propaganda put out by people that become trusted, and you get made to trust them or induced to trust them by false representation, it is what it is. See, Bill Cosby did so much for black folk, and then now we've got this negativism because he was a man, a strong man, so he has to be destroyed because there is an agenda. Nikki Giovanni, who spoke poison for the black family, is glorified. Bill Cosby, who was just doing what we all did, except he was prominent, and maybe he didn't take the precautions the rest of us did, or maybe he became too big a target, which some of us never became. They went after him. Well, hell, recently I got victimized by that nonsense. There's a certain woman that played Moesha's mother on the TV show. She said some TV judge, famous, stuck his tongue down her throat, sexually assaulted her, and it wasn't Judge Mathis. Well, some idiots assumed it was me. It wasn't. It was Mayor Koch of New York, who became judge of People's Court at the time this is supposed to have happened, worked with the same studio, and that was at the same NAPTY event in 1996 when yours truly was dealing with James Earl Ray. Now, you see, that's what we try to do, just subtle efforts to discredit people. So now people, well, you know, you've been guilty. No, I haven't. I haven't done anything except protect womanhood for years and years, and I got a whole bunch of women that will attest to how I saved them from a burglar or would-be rapist, to stop somebody from hijacking their purse on the street, all kinds of stuff. So, yeah, where'd you get this? Well, I heard. Well, you heard wrong. See, that's the way they do this.